Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is the Fight Insight podcast. I'm your host, Timmy B. Ringside Rain, she's not here today, but that's okay. I've got an incredible guest in Hurricane Heather Jo Clark. You may remember her from Tough Season 20. Way back in the day, it was 10 years ago when she made her splash. She is a part of the UFC Antitrust Lawsuit. So we're going to talk to her. It really opened my eyes. This interview really opened my eyes about what that antitrust lawsuit is about. Why do the fighters deserve money? Why are the fighters asking for money? And how will it change the future? I answered all those questions and more. So please sit back and enjoy it. Before we do, go check us out on millions.co. You can buy our t-shirt there. Go to millions.co/fight insight. You'll see it there. Look us up. Our podcast is on there, special interviews and clips. Both Rain and myself are doing interviews on there as well. Check it out. Now let's get on with the show. Hit it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Insight Podcast.
Our guest today first burst onto the MMA scene, at least in my eyes, as part of Team Melendez on Tough Season 20. 10 years ago. I'm an old man. Amassing a record of 8 wins and 6 losses, this mixed martial artist was recently quoted on a post by MMAfighting.com in what apparently were statements made by several of those in the UFC Antitrust Lawsuit. I'm so happy she's here. I've been talking about this for a while now. You know that we wanted a guest on here to talk about it. She's willing to talk about it. What is the lawsuit? What's it meant to achieve? Who benefits from it? Normally, I would have Rain bring her in, but I'm going to do my best. Please welcome Hurricane Heather Jo Clark.
Thanks so much, Tim.
She does it way better. She does it way better than me. I'll have her DM you a quote, you know?
Awesome. Thank you.
How's everything? And good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Yeah, I'm stoked to be here and share as much info as I know. And just kind of give you my insight on what I know and what I've talked to the lawyer and Rose Gracie, who's also she's been kind of helping out Rob, the lawyer, with reaching out to some of the fighters who don't speak English. So sure. She's doing translation and stuff for that. And, so, talking to her a little bit about it, and then Rob himself, the lawyer on the case, has been, it's been cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, because here's the thing. We on this podcast talk a lot about things that other media outlets and other podcasts don't talk about. We try to get deep into things, and we want to understand, and we want to learn, we want to educate ourselves. So when this whole thing came out about the antitrust lawsuit, honestly, I couldn't understand what it was. And what was it meant to achieve, and who's it meant to help? So in your point of view, what is the purpose of the suit?
To pay fighters back pay from, because we got paid so crappy, right? They basically had the monopoly in some words. I don't know actually if that's the word. That's not a word that I've read anywhere, but to me, that's my understanding. It's it's like they had the monopoly. Everyone the biggest stage, right? Everyone wanted to be them, be with the UFC, and they just paid what they wanted to pay, and it was shit. And a lot of the fighters, basically had to, live off of sponsorships, live like I did as a student, and basically borrow money at times to, just get through camp, and then you pay it back with the money that you made from the fight. Or if you were hurt, you would get, fixed after the fight, or sometimes, and then it seemed like, for me anyways, the injuries would compile, because whatever the biggest injury would be the thing that would get taken care of, and anything else would just kind of go behind and never get taken care of. So it's for this particular one. I know there's a couple, but This particular one is for us to get money. I think from the years, was it 2017? Or 2017. I think from 2014 to 2017 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a period of time where, like, depending whether you had a bout with UFC, and I think it was televised in the United States of America between certain dates, that's how you could apply for the class action. Like,
So
to
you
become
didn't have
part
to apply. They just took all the fighters' names and they put them in. And then they sent
Oh.
an email out and said, if you don't want to be a part of it, contact us.
Oh, you can opt out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I don't know. Now, let me ask you one thing, because we had Sabah Homasi. He's at Bellator. He's the Sleek Sheik. We had him on several months ago because Bellator is not paying any of his medical bills that he incurred prior to Bellator selling to PFL. And update, I don't think they've still paid him. They said they paid him a little bit right after our podcast. I'm taking credit for that. But then he's still owed a bunch of money.
Wow.
So things haven't necessarily changed, but we do have a lot of fighters that come on that say good things. Do you think now they're taking better care of their fighters now? Like, was this a time when no?
And I think also, like, I had fought for Bellator and I got a surgery after that fight, and like I had bills come up and I had to just get on it. I had to be on top of it. And it's like you had to find your way to the right person and do the right things and like there was a lot of back and forth, and like I'm lucky that I have the skills and the know-how to do that. But
Yes.
not all fighters do, or have the health or have the patience or have just the skills. So
Yep.
I understand. And same with the UFC. All three of my UFC fights, I went to the hospital in an ambulance from the fight, and had surgeries after all three as well. So
Right.
So I dealt with a lot of that shit. But yeah, I don't think the UFC. Benny, please. He's upset about it too. He's not happy about it.
No, he's part of the class action. I heard Benny.
So yeah, they don't. I don't think they do take better care of their fighters. I think that they take care of the fighters that they want to take care of. That it's like the ones that are really making them money. The ones that have the money to take care of themselves are the ones that they probably do take care of. And even then, like, look at Francis Ngannou, right? There's a reason, and I've known him before, like, all that. I haven't spoken to him since any of that, so I can't speak on his behalf on exactly what happened there. But just from what you see from the outside and what people read, it's like it sounds like he knew what he was worth, and he wasn't willing to fight for less than that, and he understood the risks involved. And he's so smart to have said, no, I'm not taking less than this, and you guys are out of your freaking minds to even try to pay me that. And then he, so yeah. I think I answered that question.
No, I got you. And like, we're going to go on a million tangents because I have stuff for you. And we talked before, like, I don't want people to get mad at me. Before we started the podcast, I said to you, can I be tough? Can I ask you some tough questions? So this is like, here's the thing that we hear from people, and people will say this in response to the lawsuit. I think, like, vast majority of people really support this lawsuit, right? They're saying that the UFC only pays out, I think I was watching a Bloomberg report, and they said they only pay out something like 20-something% of their revenue or their profits.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Maybe less, 20%, whereas other sports organizations like NBA, MLB, NFL pay upwards of 50%, right? So and that's where this difference comes. Here's the question to you, though, Heather Jo Clark. You're a young athlete. You're signing a contract of your own free will. At the time you signed, thinking like, okay, this is what I'm going to get. You understand it. Why should the UFC have to back pay you now? Because no one was forcing you to sign.
Sure. Because it's just the idea that was like, the best be all thing. And they were the most, they were paying the most even then than the other organizations that were available, because they just didn't have the money either, but the UFC did have the money. That's the thing, is that they were making, and that's to your point, they were only giving a percentage, just such a low percentage of it to their fighters. And that's the problem. If these other organizations that are making paying fighters crap, well, then you understand. But if they're making so much money off of our back, then in the end, it's like, yeah, I signed that because I had no other choice. I wanted to be the best at the highest, and hope that I would get a belt one day, and hope that I would make, the 0.1% salary. That was the goal.
Yeah. Okay. I understand.
Yeah.
Because you can see how people are like, well, wait a second. They were signing the contract, and like you said, they were the best paying at the time. But the problem is those other organizations all folded because they were running at a deficit anyways.
Right.
I have some photos from some of the quotes, and this is where I found you as being part of it. I'm like, Heather Jo Clark. I remember Heather Jo Clark. So I'm going to show a couple of the photos that with some of the quotes. Here's the first one here. There's one on the bottom there, but the top one is the one I'm looking at here. John Howard is quoted as saying, "My family needs the funds from this settlement desperately to take care of our daughter and to assist in day-to-day living expenses." So why is it UFC's responsibility to cover him now? Like, isn't there an onus and a responsibility on him to be like taking care of his family? Like, you got to go get a job.
Yeah, but it could really help is the point, like he's saying, that he really needs this money, and explaining that it's not just for like anything, it's not just like because he wants a fancy car and to go, on vacation. Right. It's like he needs it to support his family, and this goes into so much more of like the health problems and the things that I think that a lot of us are dealing with now. Sure. And maybe that's causing, issues to be able to work a normal job, or to have like a 9 to 5, or, when you come out of this kind of loss of identity, when you have to stop fighting, there's just so much that goes into it that the UFC just has totally blindly, not even talked about. Like, what about us after? Like, what are you guys doing for us after the fact? Like that as well. Like, there's no union. There's no like, they're not helping us. Like the UFC PI is not for veterans. It should be like, they should have protocols that are for veterans as well, or have their own,
like a different wing, a different area.
Yeah, exactly. For like hyperbaric chambers and different protocol for people that are struggling with brain stuff. Like, there's nothing.
The thing, but the thing there though is that that's only if you're going to be living there. Because even right now, like with the PI being in Vegas or whatnot, like if you're in a gym out there, you have access to such great facilities, right? Like from what I see on the outside. But even if they were to do something like that, like it's only going to help like a handful. Yeah.
And they have, I know some people that have like Ian Heinisch, he's a coach for me at my gym here in Boca, and like he's had a lot of brain stuff, and like the UFC sent him, see, they're doing it so shady, man. They sent him to a guy, and the guy basically, tells him they can't see anything. They can't say, they basically bring him to the right people so that if there were ever a type of lawsuit or something, that these people would be like, there's nothing, they can't see anything, there's nothing wrong with you, type of thing. And CTE cannot be, diagnosed I don't even know if it technically can be diagnosed at this point, right? Because you have to be dead to see your brain and all this shit. I don't know. It's such a such a mind fuck, the whole thing.
I know, yeah.
And Timmy, there's like a guy I have to, say about a friend of mine who just passed a couple of days ago. Bomba, I don't know if you heard from, he used to fight in Bellator, he fought in the UFC.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
He took his life, and he was in the settlement. And he had money coming to him, and he didn't know that because they hadn't gotten to him yet. And when I found that out, I get chills right now, because I'm like, man, like if he would have known he was getting $100,000
something,
or more or whatever, like, would that have changed anything? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's like, I know after talking to the lawyer, there are people that are very close to doing this, to being, there are suicidal people. There are people that
Yep.
are struggling, and more than not, let's just put it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
And fuck, like, why is there not more? So that's yes, we're not forced to sign the damn thing, but in the end, they're not doing what they should be doing for their athletes. Like, I don't know, does the NFL, do the NHL, do the MLB, do they do things for their,
Their
people
veteran, or
after
their
the fact?
yeah.
I mean,
Heather Jo Clark, like I said at the top, I was watching your season every day on Spike TV when it came out. I am an MMA guy through and through. I mean, I got no clue what happens in other sports,
but they make so much money. They have the money to take care of themselves, right?
Yes.
For the most part.
Yes. Now, again, you're hitting on so many things that I want to touch on. One thing I'll say is there was a quote from Kyle Kingsbury. And I do want to say I'm so sorry that your friend is passed away. Actually, the one person that I would have had on this podcast normally to talk about this, his name was Daniel Martinez. He was a lawyer in the Miami area. He's a criminal defense lawyer. Had him on several times. He was a big MMA fan, a boxing guy himself. He took his own life earlier this year. And so that happens all far too often, and with anything. But now we're talking about like UFC and athletes, and men's mental health is crazy. Like I know so many people, Heather Jo Clark. It's terrible. And for anybody listening, go tell people that you love them, right? Like go around, be around people,
especially
help them.
Right now in this time of year, it's like, holy shit. I've known so many people around this time of year that have, been struggling. And so, yes, tell people you miss them, you love them, you're thinking of them. It goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Yeah. Like right now, press pause on this podcast and go message 3 people that you haven't talked to in a while and just say, hey, just thinking of you. You know what I mean? Like, just do it.
Yeah.
Kyle Kingsbury, he says, and this is a great tie-in. So Kyle Kingsbury, former UFC fighter, he's quoted in Bloomberg as saying, a settlement would not be acceptable unless it includes a change to the restrictive contracts that keep fighters bound to the UFC. I know there was a weird little angle there about people saying that the contract locks you in and stuff. And I don't want to talk about that. Frankly, I don't really agree with that, because if you're signed to like the, Edmonton Oilers or, whatever hockey team, you can't just go and play with another hockey team. I mean, there's freaking bound, like there is things like that. But speaking about changes, because right now we hear and we see, and you're saying that there's money coming to people, right? But okay, the news came out. UFC reaches a settlement in the antitrust lawsuit. Now the number's up to 375. This is only one lawsuit. But my understanding is that that's not really guaranteed yet. A judge still has to approve it, because a judge declined the last one at 345 million, but that included 2 lawsuits.
Correct.
First question is, do you know if the lawsuit is approved yet?
I don't.
If the settlement is approved.
Yeah, I don't know that, but it looks really good.
Like you're close.
And a lot of the reason is, Rob, the lawyer, wanted to send in like these declarations, right? And he thought that maybe like 10 of them would be looking good. And he teamed up with Rose Gracie, and Rose is getting everybody to trying to get 100, or trying to get as many as she can, to really give the judge no way to say no, because,
and when you say, and you're saying statements as in like these like written statements, you mean?
Correct. Yeah. So written statements, declarations, meaning like,
I see.
Yeah. Statements, from fighters stating things like, these are quotes from these declarations. What are some of the questions Rob would ask is like, what are these funds? What are these things what are you going to do with them? What are these funds going to help you do?
I see.
And, mine was saying, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a hyperbaric chamber. I want to pay off school loans. I want to, and I'm looking at, I think they told me it was like 66 or 68,000 or something, which that's on without paying. I have paid taxes on that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Or you
not
don't
a
have to
lot.
if you want to just like take a ride to an island. Maybe you don't have to pay tax. I don't know. You could just,
Right.
okay,
So
but
it's
so
not a lot. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not a lot. There's other fighters that are getting 100, 200, a million. That could change, I mean, is going to change my life too, because it's going to allow me to have, my life has changed a lot in the last year and a half. I built a gym in Denver, and we had a lot, really big. We had over 300 students. It was doing really well, and I had to start all over in Boca about a year ago. So I'm rebuilding, but it will help. It will help.
Of course. Like, look. So I really appreciate what you're saying, and for those only listening on audio, I am showing the screens on here, and obviously, people know to come and watch the video version as much as you can. It's going to be on, YouTube, Spotify, millions. It's everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so some of the quotes, and like you're saying, and I really appreciate how you're explaining, because I was looking at these quotes, honestly, Heather Joe, and I was like, well, wait a second, Yuri Alcantara says, I do not have health insurance and have not been receiving the necessary care to maintain my health due to the expenses of healthcare, which I cannot afford. When I'm looking at when I'm reading that the first time, I'm like, well, dude, like, go marry a girl who's got a government job and get the benefits or something. You know what I mean? Like there's other ways. Like, what about everybody has to do that? But what you're explaining is that these are more declarations to help encourage the judge to say, okay, let's get these people, because these people need it for more than just frivolous things. It's not meant to be punitive towards UFC. It's meant to be like, hey, let's give these people what they're worth.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, what they need, what are they going to spend that money on? And he asks that, like, what are you going to use these funds? And people are explaining what they most need to use them for, And,
okay, so
and if you can see what's the common denominator in all of them?
Health. Right, well-being and health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
but Kyle Kingsbury said it needs to enact change, otherwise there's no point. If this settlement occurs, I don't think this does anything to their ongoing business. Is that correct? Or do you have a belief that it will be money plus we will do something different?
I don't know, but I don't think you can sit there and say, don't give me the money unless it changes, because that's silly. That's like we need, obviously, as in these quotes, it's like we all need could use some help right now for our health.
Right.
And it's and then maybe the UFC will look at this and say, hey, we need to make some changes, or hey, we don't want this to happen again, because this could be $1 billion thing, the next lawsuit, or if we don't make changes, or maybe they're smart enough to understand where this can lead to. I don't know.
So I like what you're saying, because there is one fighter who I will not name, whether it's a guy or girl, I'm not saying anything, but there's one fighter that was messaging me on Instagram, because I was saying, hey, can you come on and talk about it? And they were getting kind of upset. And they said, this is, I'm going to read a few of the things here. The person says, it's nothing but a money grab. It's nothing but a money grab. It's a money grab for the defendants. I don't need to have a conversation. It's all obvious. You can see it for yourself. Each fighter gets a little bit of money now. Who knows? But it's better to get money now than later. Nothing's going to change. I'm paraphrasing. This person believes that nothing's going to change. It's just about getting money. So screw it. Give me the money now rather than wait. But to your point, I like how you're saying it, because you're like, well, wait a second. If the UFC has to settle this out, obviously you have to change. Otherwise, you're just going to have another one of these later. And it's just going to get worse and worse every time. And once the precedent is set that you've paid out.
That's what you'd hope. I mean, you'd hope $375 million would wake somebody up. But if it doesn't, then what are you going to do, right? You're changing. You're literally changing people's lives. And from, like I said, speaking to Rose about some of these conversations that she's had with some of these people,
this is the translator. The translator, you're saying?
Yeah, she's telling me, not exactly like the people, their names or whatever. She's telling me like, hey, I spoke to one guy, and I told him, and then he was telling me that he's getting money from what's it called, from his gym and for his family, food and money from and this is a fighter. This was a very, very famous fighter. Again, I don't know. She doesn't share the names. It keeps everything super. What's the word I'm looking? I have problems with words.
Confidential, like
confidential. Yes.
Yeah.
But she said, this is a guy. He's going to be getting like a few $100,000 of US dollars, and he's in Brazil. So that's a lot of money. He
just became president of Brazil.
Right. So, the guy's crying and she's crying and everyone's crying. And it's like, I'm fucking crying and she's telling me the story. And it's like, some of this is really life-changing money. And the thing is why didn't these people take the money that they had when they were fighting and invest into this? Is what people would say, right? Like you see some people that did that. Claudia Gardella, amazing fighter, amazing investing. She does great. She's done great with her money. But she also maybe didn't have or doesn't have children and sick family to take care of, or maybe she does, but she was able to, whatever. I don't know. But
sure.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody, you can't sit there and just say, well, blah, blah. Just like myself, I made fucking $8,000 to fight the first fight and $8,000 to win my UFC debut. And then, had ACL surgery and couldn't fight for a year.
Right.
So what am I supposed to invest? What money am I supposed to invest? I made $16,000 and I got to pay my coaches 10%, my manager 10%, taxes 30%. What money? And the money, that I'm basically going to save to be able to eat and live like a student until my next fight.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's one thing. And I forget, was Ashley Evans Smith, was she on your season?
No, she's
Ashley
she wasn't on the Ultimate Fighter.
No, she was not. No, she wasn't. That's right. She wasn't.
She did about 135 mostly.
Right. So she said we had her on the podcast long ago when we first started. And she had said that one of the things that Dana White had said that always stuck with her is that fighting isn't a career, it's an opportunity. Now, you can say maybe that's a way of saying this so that you don't feel responsible for these people. But that's something, because I'm a commentator for Fight League Atlantic out on East Coast Canada. And there's all these incredible young amateur athletes. The next event, FLA 17, November 16th. Go to fightleagueatlantic.com. Check it out. Heather Jo Clark, you should come and watch it. But like all these young fighters, right? And so if they're growing and they're trying to become part of the world of MMA, it's very important, right? Like, what would you say then to young fighters? Because they're going to be going through very similar what you have, signing that first contract. There has to be like financial literacy, right? Is that part of it too? Like, is that part of what fighters need to do now more so than ever before?
I think that, there needs to be some type of, it falls on the coaches, I think, and it falls on also the UFC for some type of like education. I think they have done some type of education in the past on financials and things like that. But I think they need to do more about that, because like if he says that and he stands behind that quote, I can understand that, but you have to explain to people, hey, you can make this much money, and if you make John Jones money, you're going to be able to make it as a career. But most people, and that's 95% of the people, are not going to be able to make this as a career and sustain themselves as like even just a poor salary of like whatever in minimum wage salary. Like you're literally making less than that, fighting 4 times or 5 times a year, unless you are literally like, okay, maybe not the 1%, but yeah,
I get it. Like main card status, you're at least headlining an Apex show.
Yeah. Or not even headline. At this point, like you've been fighting for a while, my friends, like I think of like Tisha Torres, who was on the season with me. She's still fighting. And she's able to make a career out of it. Right. But even then it's not like she's, her and Raquel's done really well. Her wife has done really well in her career as well, but also financially, investments and stuff like that. So they're really smart with their money.
Right.
Miesha Tate, for instance, very good with her money. But she like is one of the most frugal people I've ever met. In the best possible way, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, she's, made a career out of it. So yes, you can do certain things, of course, but then there's the people like myself who I did everything I could possibly do. I moved myself around the world. I sacrificed everything I could do to be at the best, at the top, at everything. And I failed just a little bit short.
Right.
And the difference between that just a little bit short and that and them is literally making, sorry, my dog's throwing up. Okay. So
You're sick of hearing it, Heather Jo. No, I hear you. Like I really appreciate this, because when you came on, like I was not sure how I would think about it, and I'm not sure how that you would be phrasing it, but I really appreciate how you're phrasing it, because my big thing is, like, you sign the contract, you know what you're getting in for, right? But like you said, to that point, you say, well, they had the monopoly, and then there's another word that, as I was researching, they said monopsony, which I always thought they were just spelling it wrong. But monopsony is where you have a monopoly over the labor force. So I think the term that they're using is monopsony and monopoly, because you're buying out all the organizations, plus you own all the fighters, right? So where else can they go?
Yeah.
But then I like
have to sign, because your hope is that then, like, after this contract, you'll get another contract and it's going to be for more. And you just keep building that and building the ladder, right? But most people don't get there.
No. And then we talk about the 20%, of their revenue versus the 50%. Now, I don't know about any of that stuff, because here's the thing, like, when fighters are trying to sell their merch and stuff like that, it's a little bit different, like, I don't know how many people are buying, even like a Israel Adesanya t-shirt. I don't know how many people are buying that t-shirt, but how many people buy an LA Lakers jersey with anybody, right? Like, that sells so much more. So I feel like I get that NFL and them, they might pay more, but maybe they've got more merchandising stuff.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, how many people buy, Michael Jordan jersey, and how much does he get off of that? But
right. Or that just goes into the league as a whole, right? Like, it becomes a more purchasable thing. One of the problems with UFC is, like, everybody's just streaming the pay-per-views for free anyways. Like, so I don't even know how much money they make, right?
They make
like,
a lot
from the pay-per-views and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know.
Absolutely.
If someone says they bought the pay-per-view, Heather Jo Clark, you say, show me the receipt. just see a receipt. One of the things that I always say to people, when they complain about money for fighters, is I go, show me the last thing you bought from the UFC. Show me the last thing you bought that supports someone, right?
Look at their fights, though. Look at they're sold out. Like, the cards,
I know, but then you've got to pay for the venue, you've got to pay for the staff, you got to blah blah. I get it. I'm just saying, right?
That's where I was. But I think you can look up all those things, can't you? You can look up what they made at the door. He talks about it in the post.
Yeah. Well, just have every event at UFC Noche and charge people $60,000 a seat. Like, what the frig? Just do that every day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything that we haven't said? Because I know we're running short on time, and I apologize, because I want to keep you too long. Is there anything that we didn't say that you want to say, or that you think is important for people to know, so that if there's someone who's like going, oh, these stupid fighters trying to like milk the UFC, right, for this money, they don't really deserve it, blah blah. I feel like you've said everything, like the health stuff, the money, the monopoly.
Who the fuck says that, though? Like, if anybody's listening to this thinking that, then they're listening to the wrong podcast, because they clearly don't understand what we did and put our bodies on the line for, and that should be enough said, right? Like, we were underpaid, and yes, we signed it, just like if you who are listening thinks this way, we're offered to do something that you love to do, and that you're passionate about, and it's the highest paying opportunity. Are you going to sign that line and continue to try to build your life doing the thing that you love and are inspired and passionate about? Or are you going to be like, nah?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you have to go for your dreams, right? And the thing is that this was an opportunity where you can go for your dream, to do it at the highest level, to be on the highest stage, hopefully parlay that into something, hopefully achieve greatness. But at the very least, like, you're going for your dream. I mean, like, there's no shame in that. And now the thing is, what we're saying is, okay, but you had all this money, so why would you not be giving it to the people, right? And to the people complaining about it also, these are the fighters that we watch every day, right? Like, these are the people, right, that did this for your entertainment.
Exactly.
I'm gonna one last question I'm gonna say. The person that was mad at me, the person that was talking a little bit rough to me, they did say this, and I want to leave with this one. They wrote the statements and got people to sign them. I edited mine because they tried to focus on some bullshit, and I didn't want it to say that.
So, okay, so he basically,
he or she is saying,
right? They sorry, non-binary person. No, I'm just kidding. The person. So when I originally had given Rob my statement, we were just having a conversation. Rob's the lawyer. When we were having a conversation, he said, "By the way, I'm writing this down. I'm gonna put it all together, and I'm gonna send it to you. If you need any changes, let me know." Blah blah blah. Okay.
right?
He's doing this for as many fighters as you can. Okay.
Right.
So hundreds and is a little over 1,000 people in the settlement. So he's doing this, and he sent me it, and I think majority of it was correct. There was like one or two things that was wrong, and I told him, "Hey, that's not quite right. It was like this," or he's like, "Okay, cool." I switched it, changed it, no big deal. Okay. Like what this person expects the guy to get it 100% off. It's like he's not recording it, he's just like taking notes, and if he got something wrong, it's like, so change it, no big deal. If he's trying to, like, it's like anything, like any and again, if a lawyer takes a statement and he looks at that statement and he says, "I think that part is going to make the judge more likely to give us this lawsuit," and the person is like mad about that they're making it, it's like, that's the point.
Yeah. It's meant to be. It's meant to be an impactful statement. It's meant to cause emotion.
And if he's like heightening it a little bit or pushing it over a little bit more than you meant it, that's the point.
That's
what lawyers do. They don't lie. They tilt the truth a little bit to make it what they want. Okay. And that's the point. So, like, settle down.
Settle down, guy or girl that Timmy B may or may not have spoken to. I appreciate this. Heather Jo Clark, like, seriously, you don't understand. When these weird things happen in the world of MMA, I love being able to talk to people that can speak eloquently on it. So thank you so much. I knew you would, from all those interviews on Tough when I used to watch you. But I wanted
eloquently, but maybe.
No, of course. But I wanted someone who could speak eloquently about it, and I feel like you've really positioned it in a good way that I have come away learning a lot from it. So I really thank you for that. Good luck to you. Like in everything you do. Thank you so much. I hope that you come back on the podcast one day. We'll keep talking about this or anything.
To my house after I get the money.
Oh, yeah.
That's the goal. I think like everything happens for a reason. And I really, really hope that this goes through, and I hope that it saves so many people from death, and I don't say that lightly, man. It's like, fuck. It's just
real.
It's too real. It's too real. But I hope it saves people from not only the worst possible scenario, to just people being able to take a cool vacation or whatever. Like, if that's what they have their life together, and it's just going to give them a little, or buy their mom a fucking house, or pay down payment for get their dog surgery, or donate, whatever the fuck you want to do it. Like, do your money. It's your money, and they all earned it. Like, we all earned it. And if somebody just wants to say or disregard or tell me that I'm wrong, then go somewhere else. I don't want to hear about it.
No, I appreciate it.
Go get yourself. You know what I mean? Go.
Yeah. No, but thank you for taking the time too. And I do think it's important because this issue too spreads a lot of light on, like I said, those young athletes that are going into the sport that understand, like, okay, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to watch out for, right? Like, and it's financial literacy. It's understanding the contracts that you sign. It's understanding what your value is worth. You said about the Francis Ngannou thing, right? Who, last thing, Heather, Joe Clark, he's the UFC heavyweight champion, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
he's never lost it, and he just won in dominating fashion. I think he's the UFC heavyweight champion, but he's not.
John would beat him.
You think so? How dare you? How dare you?
I'm sorry. I trained with John for many years, and that man has like just special sauce. You know, he just has it. He would like find a way. I know that it wouldn't be easy. I think Ngannou does hit very hard, but I think that John can take a hit, and I think that he wouldn't take like just a hit like straight, you know, like he'd be moving and he would just, I think he would find a way. And John's also, his wrestling, his grappling abilities are way beyond Francis's. No offense to Francis again, but John, again, he's been look at his family, right? They're just athletic freaks. And he's if he goes in there with the confidence and the swag that I know he has, I think he would win.
There it is.
But we'll never know.
That's the bottom line from Hurricane Heather Jo Clark. Heather Jo Clark, thank you so much. I appreciate this so much for you coming on, you know, speaking about this. And again, like, we will keep following the story because, again, the judge has not approved the settlement yet. Plus, there are other class actions in the works as well. And then, like you said, if nothing is forced to be changed as a part of the settlement, then what does the future hold for us? We don't know, but you know, good luck to you. Good luck. I hope that everything works out for you. Of course, we'll keep in touch. And I really, really appreciate you joining the podcast. Thank you so much, Heather Jo Clark.
Thank you, Timmy. Appreciate you.
See ya. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, guys, that's it. That's our interview with Heather Jo Clark. What an incredible interview. Honestly, I was coming into that interview thinking that the lawsuit was kind of a bunch of bullcrap. I didn't really understand what it was for. I thought, hey, you signed the contract. Why do you want to amend the terms afterwards? But I get it. I feel better the way that she said it to me. Do you feel better? I feel like I understand the reasoning and what it's meant to change. So it's very interesting to me. And I do feel like I learned a lot. I was open to learning, and I want to know what you think. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts on what this was to you. And hit me up on Instagram at Fight Insight Podcast. Tell your friends, tell everybody you know about us. It's the only way we grow. Next week, not too sure who the guest is going to be, but it's going to be someone amazing, that's for sure. And Ringside Rain will be back. So we will see you next week. I want to say thank you to RageWorks Podcast Network. For other great audio podcasts like ours, hit up RageWorksNetwork.com. Guys, I'll see you next week. Right now, you're going to see some videos around here that will say great episodes in the past that you can watch. Go check them out. See you guys.